Hi guys, so in this video I wanted to talk about my sort of Spider-Man action figure collection which I've got, which is sort of like a mixture of Marvel Legends and Marvel Select figures that I keep on top of my bookcases. If you see me in the live streams with Play Tendo, you've probably noticed them, so I kind of wanted to just touch on some of the figures I've got in that Spider-Man collection. Now when collecting these figures, I've tried to get the figures as close looking to the characters from the 94 animated series, because that was like my OG Spider-Man growing up. Some of them look a bit different, but some of them I think really hit the nail on the head with how they look in terms of aesthetics. So yeah, I'm going to get straight into it and kick it off with these characters now. Bulk of these are pretty much the villains from the show. I think pretty much Spider-Man has like the second best rogues gallery for me, right behind Batman. But yeah, that being said, going to kick it off with some of the villains first. And first one I've got is Rhino. I absolutely love how this figure looks. I think it is so stellar and so fantastic. I love the size to it, the bulk to it, the detail on the Rhino hide looks absolutely fantastic. Horns are pretty sharp on it too as well. But yeah, I think this looks like a brilliant interpretation of the character. Just a fantastic looking figure from Marvel Select. So really dig how this figure looks. So that being said, gonna move on to the next one we've got, which for me, I'm gonna go with a bit more of a smaller character. Gonna go with Black Cat for the next one. Now, I do have some problems with this figure. Pretty much the main thing for me is the size of the feet, way too small and not enough surface coverage. Means the figure topples over quite a lot. I have to sort of prop her up against Rhino to try and stop him falling over. But other than that, I think the aesthetics of the figure looks absolutely brilliant. I love this blue wash over the white. Just absolutely fantastic. Really good looking. Apart from the toppling over sometimes, just really love how this thing looks. So yeah. Next one. Really love how this figure looks too. I do have some problems with it. But that is the Lizard. I think this figure came out really good. This was a builder figure that I purchased off eBay. I've seen some people have some problems with the sculpt to the head. I think they're sort of complaining that it looks a bit too much like a dinosaur rather than the Lizard. I don't really have that problem with it at all. I still think it looks great. I can see where they're coming from though. But for me, my main problem with this figure is the legs. They have this sort of pre-sculpted pose to them, which I really hate. You can bend the legs inwards, but getting them straight is not going to happen. But yeah, it really does annoy me that. The tail on this as well, I wish this was a bendy tail as well. They've just sort of put these hinges in, which does make it look really ugly. But the detail underneath is just absolutely brilliant as well. But yeah, it's a bit of a hit and miss figure. But overall, I think it looks good for what it is. Next up, I'm gonna go with the Vulture. I love the wings on this thing. I think it looks absolutely stellar and brilliant. The span on them when you straighten them out just looks absolutely fantastic. Bit of a simplistic body mold from Hasbro. This one, which I'm not too fussed about. It's very simple in design, very simple in colour as well. Just a couple of odd shades of green, but still very effective as well. I love the ruff on around the neck as well. Just all these feathers just looks absolutely brilliant. The paint apps and the sculpt on the head are just so good. The sort of the bags around the eyes, the liver spots on top of the head. Really dig how this thing looks. Just looks absolutely great. So yeah, that is my Vulture figure. Next up, going to go with Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. This too is also based on a Build-A-Figure that came out. Pretty much, it was the same character, but the suit was primarily just white. Got this one. So glad that this one came out, because it just had a much more screen accurate colour scheme to the 94 series, which is what I'm trying to go for when collecting these. Just an all-round really, really good looking figure. Came with an alternate head as well, which had some scuffs to it, like battle damage head, basically, pretty much. But overall, really dig the weight to this thing. Really love the sculpt, particularly on the shoes. Just a fantastic looking Kingpin figure. Really glad that one came out. Right, so next one we've got is a figure, in my opinion, that aesthetically and sculpt-wise looks immaculate, but in terms of posing on a shelf, it's an absolute nightmare, particularly with the arms, and you'll see why. And it is Hydro Man. Now, as I said, aesthetically, this looks brilliant, to be honest. Really, really dig the translucent blue used for the arms and the effects on the feet as well. Really, really am impressed with how this came out. In terms of sculpt, yeah, absolutely brilliant. Now, in terms of aesthetics, in terms of posing, you can't really do much with it. Rotate the hands and bend at the wrist, but other than that, that is it. And these arms, they are a bit heavy and they do tend to drop. And it just topples over on the shelf. These sort of effects pieces on the feet as well sort of give it more stability, which does help. They do pop off, so you get some great sculpting on the shoes as well. But yeah, overall, very pleased with that one. Just think it looks great, but in terms of posing, it can be a bit of a nightmare. Right, so next figure is probably my favourite figure out of this whole entire Spider-Man collection that I've got. I did have a different version of this character and I did sell it. I'm so glad I picked this one up, because it's just a much more menacing version of the character, and that is Venom. So I love how this figure looks. I love the beefiness of it. I love the sculpt to it. Just much more menacing of an interpretation of the character, in my opinion. Just looks absolutely stellar. As I said, I love the size of it. I love the paint apps. I love the sculpt, particularly on the hands. Just think it's fantastic. The head as well. That head is just absolutely brilliant. I love the teeth, the jaw, the tongue, the eyes. Has a great sort of navy blue wash to it as well. I don't know how well it's coming across on camera. You can see it over the thighs there and on the top of the head, the biceps. I love the way these tendrils as well are sculpted as well. Soft rubber, but just looks so effective. Great figure version of Venom, in my opinion. Just absolutely brilliant. Love how that thing looks. So, next character I'm going to go with, quite fitting, following Venom, I think, and quite appropriate. So I'm going to go with Carnage. Again, I much prefer a sort of skinnier Carnage to go alongside Venom, in my opinion. Again, pretty similar. Love the paint apps to this. Love the head sculpt. I love the silver eyes, the pink tongue, the black design over the red, the tendrils as well coming off the arms and the legs. Just absolutely brilliant looking figure. I love the expression on the face too. Really dig that Carnage figure. So next for me, I'm going to go with a bit of a lesser known villain, I think. And that for me is Tombstone. Very much prominently remember this character in the show. did pop out to me a hell of a lot more than I remember. I love the sculpt on the head. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The jaw, the eyebrows, the hair, just absolutely brilliant looking figure in my opinion. So good. So yeah, glad I picked that one up. Bit of a late entry into the collection, I must admit. But really love how that looks. So next I'm going to go with the Chameleon. Very different design this figure's got to what we got in the '94 show. I believe this is the only version of the character we can get from Marvel Legends. It's gone for a bit more of a business suit type of look. But yeah, not really much to say about the figure. I've just sort of picked it up because I wanted a Chameleon in my Spider-Man Rogues gallery, and he just fits in very well. So yeah, quite pleased with that one. Next up, I'm going to go with Morbius. I pretty much love how this figure looks. Again, this was another late entry into the collection. Didn't really have any plans on picking up Morbius at all whatsoever. But yeah, I love the paint apps. I love the sculpt of the head, the red eyes, the tongue, the white skin. On this, really dig that pale look that this character's got. And yeah, pretty much Morbius to me was sort of more of a Blade villain than a Spider-Man villain growing up. I've never read any of the comics or anything like that, but did want to pick him up because he was primarily a sort of a pivotal character in that show. But yeah, glad I did. Goes quite pricey now on eBay. But yeah, really glad that I picked it up. Looks great in the lineup of characters. So I was quite happy with that one. Next up, I'm going to go with Scorpion. Really good looking figure. I'm a bit disappointed with the sculpt though. Would have liked to have seen a bit more of a bulkier take on the character. I think the hands are way too small on this thing. Would have liked to have seen sort of like bigger hands and bigger arms. You know, I like Scorpion to have sort of these big claws that can sort of tear apart concrete. But still very happy with the way it looks. The paint apps on it are just absolutely brilliant. The main selling point to me on this though is the tail. The tail's absolutely fantastic. Has this really pliable bendy wire running through it. You can pose it in many different ways. The only thing is about the tail though is it makes the figure really back heavy. So I have it sort of bent down in a way which makes the tail sort of function as a third leg. So it kind of just helps with standing the figure. But yeah, overall, very happy with it. Very pleased with the way it looks. So that being said, going to move on to the next figure. Now, I don't really remember this character being in the show. I don't think they were at all, actually, to be honest. I just sort of really remember more of this character from the third Sam Raimi film. But I wanted to pick him up because he's part of the Sinister Six and looks great in the collection too. Nice Sandman. Now, I really dig the head sculpt on this thing. I think it looks absolutely brilliant. It just looks like a sort of really generic goon of a bad guy, to be honest, and it just looks absolutely stellar. I love these sort of effects pieces we get. Really good texture to them as well. The texture to the figure and the sculpt on the figure itself looks absolutely brilliant. The paint apps as well. We get these sort of scuffs running through where it looks like the figure's sort of dripping sand. He's not quite got himself back together yet. It just looks absolutely brilliant. And I love how the thing looks in the collection. It just looks so good. So yeah, that is Sandman. Right, next figure I'm going to go with is Shocker. Yeah, again, very, very simple looking sculpt to this figure. Really, really generic from what we get from Hasbro, to be fair. But the paint apps on this thing look absolutely great. Really good sculpt to it as well. I love the sculpt of the gauntlets. They just look absolutely brilliant, in my opinion, on both arms. So good. Pretty much, I always loved the design of Shocker. I always thought it looked really, really good. I love the sort of like the net effect of the costume. It just looks absolutely brilliant. So yeah, one of my favourite looking villains. I think it looks really, really good. Next up, I'm gonna go with Craven. Really dig the face sculpt on this thing. I think it looks absolutely brilliant. Love the design, love the sculpt of the jacket too. The lion's mane on the back just really, really gives this figure a lot of weight. Looks absolutely fantastic. Came in a 2-pack, this one, with the symbiote black suited Spider-Man, which you'll see in a minute. Really, really dig how this figure looks. I love the paint on the pants as well. Really, really dig it. The belt as well. Really, really good sculpt on it. Yeah, just overall really love that face sculpt. Is just absolutely brilliant and absolutely stellar. He just looks so jacked up. Yeah, really, really dig the way that figure looks. Just absolutely superb. So the next figure I'm going to go with, great villain, of course played by Jake Gyllenhaal, this one. Gonna go with Mysterio. I really dig the way this thing looks as well. It's pretty much as close to the cartoon, I think, as we're gonna get. Really love the gold on the gloves, the boots, the 2 eyes where the cape meets the body. Really, really dig how this thing looks. Great cape as well. It's pretty much a solid plastic. I love the dome as well. The sort of pearlescent paint apps. It just looks absolutely fantastic. Really, really dig how this thing looks. Great articulation on this as well. You can get him into some really good looking poses. Just absolutely fantastic looking figure. Really, really enjoy that one. So next up, I'm going to go with Electro. An absolutely fantastic interpretation of the character. I really, really dig how this thing looks. Such a shame the Jamie Foxx version looked nothing like this at all. Now I know this costume's a bit silly. It really is, and it really does look like something impractical, but they could have really made that villain look something a bit more serious, yet still capture how this figure looked. Just give it a bit more, should have given it a bit more thought. But yeah, getting back to the figure, I love the head sculpt, the mask is just absolutely brilliant. I've always loved how this character has looked. I love the contrast of the yellow and green. Just love how it pops. I am in love with these effect pieces for the hands. Just the electricity coming off them is just so good and so clever with this this translucent yellow plastic. Just really, really pops and works. The figure did come with some alternate hands as well. I think there were closed-fisted ones as well, so if you didn't really want the electricity effects, you could swap those out, which is always a nice option to have. But yeah, I think this is just the best Electro figure there is, to be honest. I really, really just love how it looks. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, next in the Rogues Gallery, I'm going to go with Hobgoblin. So yeah, this is another one I really love how it looks. The head and face sculpt are just absolutely fantastic in my opinion. Really, really pops. I love the red eyes, the sort of laughing smile of horror on this figure's face. I just think it is so good. I love the sculpt of the hood too. Really, really good. I've always loved the design of Hobgoblin. I love the contrast as well of the orange and blue. We get a sculpted pumpkin bomb in the hand too. Really, really good. And a look at the boots too. Just absolutely fantastic. Great articulation too. You get the ankle pivot and the toe articulation. Oh, it's just, yeah, really, really enjoy this figure. Pretty much the same body sculpt that we get with the next villain as well, which I'll get into now. This, of course, Norman Osborn, Green Goblin. This is another head sculpt I absolutely love. The standout to me on the head sculpt is those ears. Those ears are absolutely fantastic. I just love how it pops. I love the sculpt of the face, the yellow eyes, just absolutely fantastic. It is pretty much the same figure as the Hobgoblin one, just obviously without the cape and a different head. No ankle pivot on this one, which is a bit of a shame though. But other than that, really, really stellar looking figure. The hood as well, just absolutely fantastic. It's like Green Goblin just popped off the screen into figure form. It looks so good. Really, really is a fantastic, fantastic figure. So, yeah, that being said, I'm going to get into the last of the villains. We've got 5 figures left. But yeah, this is the last villain I've got from the collection. And again, this is probably up there for me with the Venom figure. It's Dr. Octopus. I love how this thing looks. The body mold, just absolutely fantastic. Fantastic looking Otto Octavius figure. So superb. So good. Just really, really dig it. I love the tentacles as well. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, this to me, the pretty similar to Electro, the contrast of the green and yellow in the design, just absolutely fantastic. Now this isn't, they've got the right colour scheme, but the sculpt is just completely different to that. The Dr. Octopus in the animated show. Doesn't bother me too much. It still looks pretty good. But yeah, I've seen customs of this where they've replaced the tentacles with sort of bendy these metal bendy pipes from lamps. These aren't articulated at all. These are all pre-posed. You can only really articulate them from the base where they're plugged in. But some of the customs I've seen on this look absolutely brilliant. The claws themselves aren't articulated either. I've seen people customize those too to make one absolutely stellar Dr. Octopus figure. Glasses aren't removable, but you can lift them up. You can sort of see underneath. But overall, I think this is a brilliant looking figure. Brilliant interpretation of Dr. Octopus as well. Just looks absolutely great. So the next couple of figures I've got are pretty much, they don't really fall into the villains categories, particularly this next one, although it can be a bit of a pain in the arse for Peter Parker. And it's Jonah Jameson. Pretty much the exact same figure as the Chameleon. I think the jacket's a bit different, but the body mold's pretty much definitely the same. Hands and head as well are different, and a different tie. But other than that, I think this is a great looking Jameson figure, to be honest. It's so good. I think they just really nailed the character and the head sculpt. I just think it looks absolutely fantastic. So really good to have that one in the collection. Next up, This was originally a Gwen Stacy figure, but it did come with an alternative head for Mary Jane Watson, so I sort of went with the Mary Jane look for this one. And yeah, I think this figure just does exactly what it needs to do, pretty much. Mary Jane Watson for me was always the sort of the love interest that I was interested in with Spider-Man because of the Sam Raimi movies. But yeah, really, really good with how that figure looks, to be fair. But yeah, so the last two figures I've got are, of course, of Spider-Man himself. I'm going to go with the Black Symbiote one first. Yeah, this to me is just absolutely fantastic. I love the massiveness of the eyes, pretty much taking up the entire face. Just absolutely brilliant. Love the sculpt on the hand too and the paintwork. Very, very simplistic looking figure. Not much in terms of paint apps either, but I think it just works so well. Really, really good looking figure. Pretty much just, it's all black plastic with white paint on it. And I just think it looks absolutely brilliant and stellar. It's just a great, just a great Spider-Man figure. Just looks absolutely brilliant in my opinion. And then, of course, the last figure I've got is of the classic costume itself. Yeah, just a fantastic looking interpretation of Spider-Man. Really, really dig the paint apps on it. Really love the sculpt. The articulation's pretty good too. Just a fantastic looking Spider-Man figure. Absolutely brilliant classic look to it. I love the sculpt on the whipping hand as well. We got a fist too. Really, really good. Just overall impressive looking Spider-Man figure. So yeah, that is pretty much my collection of Spider-Man figures that I just really, really love. It's taken me quite a long time to build up this collection. I think there's the odd character that I would like to see in figure form. But yeah, overall, very, very happy with the way this looks and the way it turned out. And I think it's just a great collection to have. So yeah, something a bit different today. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. If you're new, please think about hitting the subscribe button. And if you'd like to see more sort of figure reviews that I've got as well, be happy to make videos of those too. So yeah, I'll just say thanks very much for watching. Stay safe and take care. I'll see you soon.